Ladies and gentlemen,
I'd like to talk to you today about a guy named Jack Churchill. You may not be familiar with him, but I hope after our presentation you will understand who he is.
when we think of World War II soldiers, we usually imagine rifles, grenades, and tanks. What we do not imagine is a man charging into battle armed with a longbow, a broadsword, and bagpipes. And yet, that is exactly what Lieutenant Colonel John Malcolm Thorpe Fleming Churchill, better known as Mad Jack Churchill, did. He was not a myth, a movie character, or a legend exaggerated over time. He was very real, and his life was one of the most extraordinary stories of the Second World War.
Born in Sri Lanka on September 16, 1906, Jack Churchill was raised in a middle-class family. His father worked as a civil engineer, and his mother was a daughter of a politician. The Churchills moved from various Asian and English cities all throughout Jack's youth, so the young boy would gain a sense of adventure and thrill. Also, during these years, Jack learned to play the bagpipes and became a master at archery, skills that would become useful later in life. Jack Churchill would eventually go to King's William College for his education, and afterwards would attend the Royal Military College and graduate as a military officer in 1926 at the age of 20. He was sent to Burma and fought in the Burma Rebellion as a captain. In Burma is where he fell in love with his motorcycle, constantly riding it through the jungle.
When the Burma Rebellion ended with a British victory, Jack remained in Burma for several years before leaving the British Army in 1936. He moved to Kenya, and in Kenya, Jack worked as a newspaper editor, but he also occasionally worked in the male model industry. In 1936, he used his archery skills to be part of the movie called The Thief of Baghdad, and he also got second place in a bagpipe competition during a trip to Scotland. Jack would also attend the World Archery Championship, where he scored highly among the global masters of archery.
On September 1st, 1939, Hitler would invade Poland and the UK would declare war on Germany. Jack Churchill returned to the army as a lieutenant colonel, controlling a section of the British Expeditionary Force. He was sent to France early in the war, bringing along his family bow and arrow. In France, he reportedly shot a German with an arrow before the arrows were all later crushed by a truck. In 1941, Jack was promoted and led a raid on a major Nazi position in Norway on December 27th, just 2 days after Christmas. Despite being the main commander of the battle, Churchill was on board the first landing craft to the beach and famously played an old battle tune on his bagpipes as countless men were slaughtered around him. It is remarkable how Churchill even survived the attack, but it was successful nonetheless. The position was taken in just nearly 10 minutes, and Churchill was awarded the Military Cross for his actions.
In 1943, Jack was moved to Italy to help support the fighting there. Churchill would lead countless important attacks, including one of the most unbelievable moments of World War II. Carrying his family broadsword and having his arrow and a new set of arrows around his waist, Churchill and one other man captured a fortified post, 42 soldiers, and a mortar. Churchill assumed the enemy would surrender immediately when he attacked, thinking his bravery meant a larger army was behind him. He was correct. Eventually, however, Churchill would meet fate. During a battle in 1944, a mortar shell hit his position, and everyone was killed except him and only 5 others. Although injured, Churchill still played his bagpipes until the Germans captured him by throwing grenades at him, knocking him unconscious. Churchill was sent to a prisoner of war camp, where he would attempt to escape multiple times, including once walking hundreds of miles, only 50 miles from the border, before he was captured.
In late 1944, German soldiers rebelled against the SS units protecting the camp Churchill was in. The SS then fled the camp, and Churchill and his fellow inmates were freed. Churchill then walked 100 miles to Allied lines and stayed there until the end of the war. Remarkably, Jack Churchill did not slow down after the war. He continued serving the army, trained paratroopers even, and later became a surfing pioneer, helping to introduce the sport to Britain. He also loved riding trains, and once got in trouble for throwing his briefcase out the window every day so he wouldn't have to carry it home.
Jack Churchill retired from the army in 1959 and lived a long, unconventional life until his death in 1996. He never stopped being himself, fearless, eccentric, and utterly unapologetic. Jack Churchill's life reminds us that history is not only shaped by strategies and armies,
but carry it home.
Jack Churchill retired from the Army in 1959 and lived a long, unconventional life until his death in 1996. He never stopped being himself, fearless, eccentric, and utterly unapologetic. Jack Churchill's life reminds us that history is not only shaped by strategies and armies, but by individuals bold enough to defy expectations. In a war defined by machines and mass destruction, Mad Jack stood out by charging forward with a bow, a sword, and the belief that the courage and confidence could still change the course of events.
Thank you.